In this episode of The Future of Transportation, we begin our four-part interview of MIT professor Jinhua Zhao. In this part, we discuss his background, experience at MIT, and how he founded the MIT Mobility Initiative. Welcome back to The Future of Transportation, the podcast where we explore how technology, policy, and innovation are reshaping the way we move through the world. Today, we're honored to welcome Professor Jinhua Zhao, one of the world's leading experts in urban mobility. He's a professor at MIT, where he directs the MIT Mobility Initiative, the JTL Urban Mobility Lab, and the Transit Lab. His research blends behavioral science, policy, and AI to design smarter, more sustainable transportation systems worldwide. So thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Sophia. Great to be here with you talking about the exciting topics.
Yes. All right, so let's start at MIT, where Professor Zhao earned 2 master's degrees and a PhD in transportation. In this segment, we explore how his time at MIT shaped his vision and how that led to the founding of the MIT Mobility Initiative. Let's start from the beginning. What early experiences or influences drew you into the field of cities and transportation?
Sure, yeah. I was born in Qingdao, China in the 1970s. When I was a teenager, I have one type of entertainment, right? That is jumping the bus and riding around the city, right? At that time, there were only 36 bus routes in Qingdao. I know every one of them. I know where it starts, where it ends. I wrote all of them, right? It's really fun at the time. Actually, the freedom I enjoyed, that's like 48 years ago. It's more than like my son and daughter who live in Newton. They have to be driven around by me or my wife, right?
Yeah.
So at that time, even though China is very poor, the system was not that good. But because this bus network, I've enjoyed such a freedom there, right? So something I really appreciate that. But one thing I noticed is, so why wasn't bus line right in front of my apartment, right? Who determines where the line goes, right? For example, for us to go from our apartment to the beach, Qingdao is famous for its beautiful beach. We have to take the bus 34, transfer to bus 5, then 1. Takes like almost 1.5 to 2 hours to get there, right? So always part of that, how are these bus routes connected into a network? Who decide where to go, right? So I like city transportation because from one side, it's so tangible. Everybody living in it, you interact with it. From the other side, it's so complex. You can study it seriously, right? The question I asked when I was a teenager, right? How do we design the network? Bus network design problem, as of today, is still not resolved, right? It turns out to be an NP hard problem. The number of possible solutions grow exponentially with the size of the problem, right? Still today, we do not have a full solution to that, right? So on that's where you, from one side, you have such a close relationship with the cities and transportation. From the other side, you can ask very deep, complex question there, right? The problem is not solved actually there are two senses for the word. The first one is analytically, we don't have a mathematical solution for it, right? We have heuristic to process it. But the other side of the question is also that the definition of success is yield defined, right? There are many objectives in transportation. They often conflict with each other. Like what's the trade-off between coverage versus frequency? What's the trade-off between reduced CO2 emission but providing a high level of service? What's the potential tension between efficiency versus equity? So that makes the city and transportation so kind of puzzling for us, right? From one side, we have so many exciting technology. From the other side, such a complex social agendas being exposed and loaded onto transportation, right? That makes the field exciting.
I really like that answer.
Yeah.
Now, let's focus more on the time from MIT. So how did your time at MIT as a student and researcher shape your career path toward focusing on urban mobility? What's MIT's special connection to this field?
Yeah, let me answer the question in the broader sense of MIT beyond transportation, right? I would say MIT is a small university. I use the word small in the best sense here. It's small so that there's less boundaries within MIT, right? There are less boundaries between disciplines. There are also less boundaries between the campus and the broader society, right? For example, when MIT moved from Boston to Cambridge, that's in 1916, right? MIT literally had only one building, meaning all the sections are connected by this infinite corridor. Walking at MIT, you cannot help bumping into each other, right? City planners talking to material scientists, civil engineer working with the economists. It happens everywhere, every time. Right? Myself, for example, is appointed in 3 departments: city planning, civil engineering, and the IDSS, Institute of Data Systems Society. That smallness of MIT allows us to interact with each other with much less boundary. Right? The second part is there's also less boundary between campus and the broader society. MIT is not an ivory tower. We go out and interact with the community and with the industry. Right? For example, in transportation, we work with, say, MBTA in Boston, WMATA in DC, CT in Chicago, also internationally with Transport for London in the UK, MTR in Hong Kong, LT in Singapore. So the MIT spirit is really the mens and Manus, right? Bring the theoretical knowledge and practical application together. This is such an important aspect and particularly fitting for transportation problem.
I guess like the inherent construction of MIT fosters this interdisciplinary ability.
Exactly. Yeah. And also for some discipline, perhaps this interdisciplinarity also interact with society is not crucial. For example, if you study theoretical physics, right? Whether you interact with the community or not, with the industry or not, is very much irrelevant, right? But for transportation, this interaction is essential.
All right, let's talk about the MIT Mobility Initiative, which I love so much. I love the talks every Friday, and you founded it back in 2020. Can you tell us a bit more about it and what motivated you to create it?
Right. First of all, I'm so glad you enjoy it as
Yeah.
we have you as a loyal fan to the mobility forum there. Right. Yeah. We started really with 2 purposes. Internally, MIT has a proud history of transportation research. Right? Many of us are doing brilliant research individually. But if I offer one critique, that is, it lacks coherency. If you come to MIT looking at transportation, you may have 50 different labs all working on transportation in different ways, right? So I created the MIT Mobility Initiative to offer some degree of coherency, right? It's a community to bring faculties together. In fact, I should keep discovering professors who study transportation at MIT I didn't know before. So far, we got 75 faculties from 12 different departments. It could be the traditional kind of a city planning discipline, civil engineering discipline. Of course, we study transportation, but also mechanical engineering, computer scientists, operation research, also economists, psychologists, political scientists, all study transportation in different ways, right? In fact, no single department owns the discipline of transportation. Is by its nature multidisciplinary. So that's one goal I have, to bring the community together.
Yeah.
But also want to say the coherency, I only want it to be a moderate degree of coherency. The best part of MIT is this bottom-up approach of thinking here, right? Not a top-down design here, oh, let's do this with all the structure up front, right? Then the second purpose is actually external. MMI Mobility Initiative is designed to be outward-facing from the very beginning, right? Because we recognize the best innovation in transportation is not necessarily coming from academia. Often, the problem definition are more likely come from the community, while the business innovation, technology innovation may very well come from the industry, right? So I set up the Mobility Initiative to bring the MIT scholarship outward to society, but also bring the latest challenges in industry thinking into the campus here.
So you're kind of like you're a bridge between MIT and other people, and then also within MIT.
Very much, yeah, very much, yeah. The goal of Mobility Initiative to accelerate the safe, clean, and inclusive mobility system, right? We do that through research, education. That's a classic thing universities do. But also we encourage entrepreneurship and engagement. Engagement, that's where we talk to the community, talk to the industry, but also having the forum for which you're participating so that we can disseminate the knowledge to the broader public.
Thank you so much for watching the first part of this interview. In the next part, we'll dive into Professor Zhao's research work. If you enjoyed this video, hit like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below.